From the News 19 Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Efren Fonte, and you may have heard we have weather impact alert days upcoming for really the next 3 days, but that's going to be starting later on tonight. We're looking at Tropical Storm Debby. That is going to be a considerable impact. It hasn't really started yet for South Carolina, but it will be in the coming hours. And the primary threat, although the threat really covers everything that a tropical storm or even a hurricane has, we're still looking at the main threat is going to be considerable flooding, especially in many communities along and south of I-95, all the way to the South Carolina shores, but even a greater risk when we head towards the low country. What are we expecting? Well, for now, we're looking at repeated storms that are going to have a lot of downpours associated with it. And again, this is going to be over the course of the next 3 days, all the way through Thursday and possibly even Friday. In the Midlands, there is the likelihood of flooding and dangerous driving conditions, which simply put, there's no need if you don't have to be out on the roadways. This was the latest update as of 8 o'clock this evening over from the National Hurricane Center. 8 o'clock advisory, it's still tropical storm, but notice two of the biggest things. The winds are at 45 gusting to 65 miles an hour. That's the first thing. Winds aren't that strong as when it made landfall as a hurricane category 1 in the Florida Big Bend with winds sustained at 80 miles an hour. It's moving also really slow, northeast at 6 miles an hour. Just to give you an idea, if you lived anywhere in the Carolinas, back in 2018 we had Hurricane Florence that made landfall just in the areas of Carolina Beach, near Wilmington, North Carolina, and then went straight west very slowly, in the tune of maybe 2 to 3 miles an hour. By the time it got to areas of Sumter and Lee County, it had moved 2 miles an hour, and it was almost 7 to 8 hours later. Tropical storm warnings are still in effect for southeast Georgia and northeast Florida, and includes the low country. Now we have tropical storm watches pretty much from the Isle of Palms all the way up, including Horry and Georgetown County. The projections right now really haven't changed. That'll be changing during the 11 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center, but all indication Tuesday, so throughout the day tomorrow into tomorrow afternoon, it'll be making its way through southeast Georgia. By Tuesday afternoon, still 40-mile-an-hour winds. Considering it's right now at 45, this will very likely be less. So it may still be a tropical storm, or it may be a tropical depression. The problem is that it is expected to go back out into the Atlantic sometime Tuesday evening into the overnight hours. Regardless of what it's going to be, whether it's a tropical depression or a storm, it will intensify. And as it does, these projections have it intensifying to tropical storm with 60-mile-an-hour winds. But notice this deviation. East, north, making landfall somewhere in Georgetown or Horry County by Thursday afternoon, before traversing its way through the Grand Strand and into North Carolina by Friday. Even though we don't have any watches or warnings in the Midlands, but they're in the low country, the impact is going to be pretty much for all of the South Carolina shores and for a good portion of our Midland community. The spaghetti models, just to show this, it is all over the place. Bottom line, this tropical storm can deviate in any direction, let alone over the next 24 hours, but as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. Latest advisories, the important thing to note is that a tornado watch is still in effect for all of the low country until Tuesday morning at 1 o'clock, but a flood watch covers pretty much all of South Carolina along and south of I-20. And notice most of the Midland communities, this is a flood watch, but notice the time and day. This goes until Thursday night at 8 o'clock. This is what we're expecting as we get towards midnight tonight. We'll start seeing bands of heavy rainfall already moving through the low country, but now impacting most of the southern half of the Midlands, but particularly Orangeburg County. So a very strong message for Orangeburg and Clarendon, Calhoun counties. This is what you're going to be experiencing as we get into the overnight hours, and this is going to continue all throughout the day tomorrow. And by Tuesday morning, shortly after day, or rather just before daybreak, widespread heavy rainfall is expected not only in the Midlands, but as you're going towards the Grand Strand, but especially down in the low country. And the amount of rainfall just tonight alone, before we get to midnight, maybe 5 to 6 inches of rainfall in the low country. Notice that not that much rain yet in the southern portion of the Midlands. It won't be until daybreak tomorrow where we could see totals anywhere from approaching an inch to approaching 2 inches in Calhoun, Orangeburg, and Clarendon counties. The tropical storm winds, if you notice here, for South Carolina, Tuesday morning, very little chance of 40+ mile-an-hour winds, and that's going to be primarily in the extreme southern portions of the low country and low country coastline. Well, the other impact, now we got to go from overnight in the morning tonight into tomorrow morning for here in the Midlands. Between midnight and 6 a.m., where's the possibility of heavy rainfall and absolutely monitored weather. And it's a great thing to have the News 19, the WLTX News 19 app on your phone so you can monitor all the weather conditions, including the radar. Because the amount of rainfall that we're expecting by the time we get to daybreak tomorrow, again, Calhoun, Clarendon, Orangeburg County, approaching over an inch to approaching possibly 2 inches. Computer models indicating a little over 2 inches of rainfall in Manning. Is that possible? Yes. But notice the amount of rainfall in the central third of the Midlands, approaching half to 3/4 of an inch of rainfall. There will be rain to the north, but not as much going into Tuesday morning. The winds, well, this is by Tuesday, by midnight tonight, going into tomorrow. Notice we're not anywhere near reaching tropical storm strength winds. Now, from Tuesday morning going all throughout the day, Tuesday, midday, heavy rainfall continues as Debby is still somewhere off the coast. And by midnight going into tomorrow night, we're still going to have quite a bit of heavy rainfall. So the bottom line is that from Tuesday morning statewide all the way through tomorrow night, conservatively, we're looking at the possibility of at least a foot, 12 inches or more of rainfall in portions of the low country, expanding into possibly the Grand Strand, where they can get upwards of 6 to 7 inches of rainfall. But the bullseye throughout the day, Tuesday, tomorrow, is going to be primarily the low country, although there'll be quite a bit of extended rainfall going into our Midland communities. And as far as the tropical storm winds, well, now you can see that there is even an increased chance of the 40+ mile-an-hour wind gusts when you go from Hilton Head all the way up to possibly Folly Beach. Notice, though, we're not going to be dealing with that here, but for us tomorrow, from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. is going to be the largest impact of, again, showers and storms with very heavy rainfall widespread. And at this point, there should be absolutely no driving out there. Unless you absolutely have to drive, don't even bother, because the road conditions are going to be very dangerous, especially with the amount of rainfall that we're expecting. Starting in the morning, most areas, the heaviest rainfall is going to be, again, in the southern, southeastern Midlands. But as we go throughout the day tomorrow, going into tomorrow night before midnight, we could be looking at areas along and on each side of I-95, potentially on the low end 3 inches, but at the high end approaching 7 to 7.5 inches of rainfall. That's a total cumulative starting tonight all the way through tomorrow night. That's a lot of rainfall, even just for a 24-hour period. So keep that in mind. We should not be driving out there at all. Although the rainfall may not be that much by tomorrow night in the northwest Midlands, Saluda, Newberry, and Fairfield counties, for the most part, may be approaching an inch at best. But still, you're talking about an inch of rainfall over 24 hours period. And with the amount of rainfall we've had this past weekend, everything is going to be soaked. Tropical storm winds from Tuesday morning until tomorrow night, again, 0 straight across. So this, at least for the next 24 to 46 hours, at least it's going to be more of a rain event, not so much a wind event. Now we go from tomorrow night, midnight, all the way through Wednesday. Here comes heavy rainfall. It tapers off a little bit Wednesday morning, and then here comes Debby with the second round moving through. By Wednesday afternoon, a lot of that heavy rainfall is pushing into the eastern half of South Carolina and into the Midlands. So by Wednesday night, we're going to have the second band of very heavy rainfall. Thursday morning, we're still going to do it all over again. And by Thursday afternoon, notice where it is. It's still in the eastern portions of South Carolina with all that rainfall wrapping around it. So we're nowhere near as out of the woods. This is technically now the third day that we're going to be dealing with Tropical Storm Debby. That's why it's very important to understand that we are going to be expecting a lot of rainfall. The amount of rainfall total, now this is going to go from tomorrow midnight going into Wednesday. By Wednesday afternoon, we're now looking at many areas from the PD all the way down to the low country, potentially a foot of rain, 12, 13 inches. But notice as we get into the afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, that higher number is now to expand a little bit more into the PD and into the Midlands. And by the time this rainfall is done, it's scooped up a little bit, you're still talking about in the areas that easily could be dealing with probably anywhere from a foot to 2 feet of rainfall. And that amount, well, we're still talking about that amount covering potentially as much as 12 to areas from 15, 16 inches of rainfall. And we're talking about now areas along and south of I-90 or east of I-95 all the way down to the coast. These are really, really large numbers that we're going to see very likely. And the tropical storm winds, when we're going to be expecting it, well, this is now Wednesday at noon. It's going to be more so along the coastline of South Carolina, where there is a bigger probability, and that's just Wednesday during the afternoon. By Thursday morning, it expands all the way out to the Grand Strand, and the probability table does go up. Notice, though, that this is very likely going to be more of tropical storm winds of 40 miles an hour or more, mostly along the coastal communities of South Carolina. Well, now we have here in the Midlands. This is from Wednesday morning all the way through Thursday, at least Thursday afternoon. This is going to be a day and night event. The timetable could shift, but the bottom line is that we are looking at the likelihood for the Midlands from Wednesday early morning all the way through at least Thursday afternoon. More heavy rainfall, and at this point right now, from Wednesday and Thursday, there is zero reason to be out on the road unless you're a first responder or absolutely have to be at work. The bottom line is that just don't risk it on the roadways. If you can't see the road, stop, turn around, don't drown, because we don't even know if the roads are going to be there, let alone how much rainfall has already fallen at that point. How much are we talking? This is from Wednesday at noon, or sorry, Wednesday at midnight, early in the morning. By the time we get to Wednesday afternoon, we're now approaching 11 to 12 inches of rainfall, possibly in Clarendon and eastern portions of Orangeburg County. We're still talking 4 to 6 inches of rainfall along I-95, and then almost 3 inches of rainfall along and around I-20 and points going north. Notice, though, Newberry and Fairfield County not that much, but, and I'm sorry about that because I keep on getting to the date where it ends, but you can see how much rainfall. We're talking about Thursday afternoon, where there is that potential along I-95 all the way to the edges of Berkeley, Williamsburg, Florence County, and then Dorchester and Colleton counties. Our Midland communities along I-95 have the potential by Thursday afternoon to get 12 to 15 inches of rainfall. Now keep in mind that is expanded from tonight all the way until Thursday afternoon. That's 3.5 days. It's not going to come all at one time. If you remember, Hurricane Florence put down a lot of rainfall in the eastern portions of the Midlands, but particularly in the PD. All that came down in 24 hours. This is more like 72 to 80 hours. It may be a lot, but it is going to be spread out. The impacts are still going to be prevalent. We are still going to be seeing a lot of rainfall associated with it in our Midland communities alone. Now, the tropical storm winds, by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon, well, not really a chance yet, although the numbers are starting to get up just a little bit. But as we get into Thursday midday and Thursday afternoon and Thursday night, the chance for those tropical storm winds do go up. But if you notice, it is a really small chance, less than 10% by Thursday night. So yes, it's going to be windy, but there's not that big of a chance, if at all, of 40+ mile-an-hour wind gusts consistently in the Midlands throughout the day on Thursday, and then even Thursday overnight into Friday. It's still a very low chance. The only areas that I would be concerned about that, even if the track shifts to where we could have tropical storm winds that would be 40 miles an hour, 40 mile an hour plus, would be extreme eastern portions of Clarendon and Orangeburg County. So if you wanted to draw a line, pretty much along and east of I-95, anywhere from Mount Zion, Turbeville, Jordan, Forston, Lake Marion, the far eastern edge, maybe Holly Hill, Tugtown, Four Holes. That would be the greatest chance that we would have tropical storm winds Thursday into Friday. But again, it is barely over 10% in just one area. So the winds may be there. It will be windy, there's no doubt, but at least the tropical storm wind chance is really down for all of the Midlands, which at least that is the plus. Bottom line is that we're going to be dealing with this for 3 days and a half. The half would be tonight, overnight tonight, and then again on Tuesday with the heavy rainfall, Wednesday with more rainfall. And keep in mind that tomorrow will be round 1. Tonight it'll be round 0.5. Round 2 will be Thursday. We're expecting more heavy rainfall. That's why we've issued the weather impact alert for those 3 days. Friday we may have more storms, and then Saturday, maybe afternoon storms. We may have to extend the weather impact alert into Friday or even Friday and Saturday. But the key message is this: starting tonight by midnight and for the next 3 days into Thursday evening, Thursday late night, unless you have to be out, really is no need to go out there. Stay weather aware with the impacts that we're expecting. Make sure you download the WLTX app on your phone. And if you have Roku or Fire Stick or Apple TV, make sure you upload the WLTX Plus app so you can watch us. And the biggest thing is that if the power does go out, at least you have the app that you'll be able to watch us when we're on air on News 19 or we're online. For now, we'll be constantly monitoring this. All 4 meteorologists will be here at the station until all of this is gone, and we'll have updates as we come up at 11 o'clock tonight on News 1911. For now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Efren Afante.